So imagine this. It's a Monday morning, July 2001, in Richmond, London, and it's quiet. But then, just before 7 a.m., something impossible happens.
Hmm.
A body literally drops out of the sky, lands right in the middle of a quiet car park.
It sounds like something out of a movie. I mean, the emergency services, they arrive thinking, this has to be a crime scene, a murder.
Of course. But it wasn't a murder. It was the final devastating act of a journey driven by just the most desperate kind of ambition. And it kicked off this mystery that spanned years, continents. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right. So for this deep dive, the sources we're looking at really go into the extraordinary depth of this one-man story. We get the specifics of his life, the financial pressures that were driving him.
And then this really remarkable effort to just give him a name.
And a proper
burial 20 years later.
Exactly. And we're contrasting that very personal tragedy with a more systemic view, looking at the broader kind of bureaucratic failures in identifying migrant bodies across borders and how one really determined police officer just cut through all of it.
So our mission today is to understand the man, Mohammed Ayaz, his drive, the, absolutely horrific circumstances of his death, and then this powerful, very rare moment of closure that brought his family and the investigating detective back together.
It's an incredible story.
It really is. So to get the initial scene, you have to kind of picture the geography. Richmond is just a few miles east of Heathrow Airport.
Right under the flight path.
Exactly. So the first officers on the scene, they might have been completely baffled, but when Detective Chief Inspector DCI Sue Hill arrived, she knew. She immediately understood what was going on.
Well, yeah, because she knew the area. For her, the location was the answer. You're under this constant procession of jets lowering their landing gear. The man had fallen from a plane.
The team quickly traced the aircraft. Is a British Airways Boeing 777MM that had flown in from Bahrain. Now, this is where I think a lot of misinformation comes in. People assume there must be some, secret way to get inside.
That's a total myth. It's not a Hollywood movie where there's a pressurized passage into the cargo bay or something. The wheel bay is it's a void, an unpressurized space designed only to hold the landing gear.
So a stowaway has to somehow squeeze into this tiny space, knowing that this huge mechanism is about to retract inches away from them.
And then there are the conditions.
Which are just impossible. I mean, they're not survivable. The plane's at 35,000 feet. The space is unpressurized. The temperature just plummets to, minus 50 degrees Celsius?
Minus 50. And there's almost no oxygen. The survival stats on this are grim. The vast majority die from hypothermia or hypoxia long before the plane even gets close to its destination.
So our sources confirm that Mohammed Ayaz was almost certainly unconscious or already dead when the landing gear was lowered for the approach to Heathrow.
And that action is what released him from the plane. He fell half a mile, hit the ground at over 120 miles per hour.
And what's so sobering is that while this was a huge shock for the people in Richmond, this is not a unique event.
No, not at all. Far from it. This kind of desperate attempt is tragically common. We have documented proof of at least 70 international wheelbase stowaways since 2001 alone.
Wow.
And what's more, several of those bodies have fallen in that exact same area of southwest London, right under the Heathrow approach. It's a chilling reminder of the lengths people will go.
That context is so important. But let's shift focus from the spectacle of the death to the person. Who was Mohammed Ayaz? What drove him to make this impatient, horrific choice?
Well, he was a young man from Pakistan, and he was driven by this immense sense of family responsibility. His father, Gul Dayar, he described his son as strong, brave, excellent at his work.
And his motivation was?
It was simple but profound. He just wanted to earn money so his younger siblings could get an education, escape the poverty cycle. His father later gave this really stark epitaph for him. He said his son died in search of bread.
In search of bread. And this wasn't some sudden decision, was it? It was the culmination of months of failed attempts to do things the right way.
Totally. The family was already trapped. They'd borrowed a huge amount of money, a massive sum for them, to pay a visa agent in Islamabad. They were trying to get him a legitimate British visa.
And the agent was a scammer.
A complete scam. The visa never came.
So they're already deep in debt just from trying to follow the rules. And they tried again.
Yes, they went another common route. They paid another agent to get him a laboring job in Dubai. Thousands of Pakistanis do this. But the promises were just hollow.
What happened when he got there?
He arrived to find the pay was a fraction of what he was promised. Just 100 dirhams a month.
100 dirhams. What's that in pounds?
At the time, about 21 pounds.
Wait, hold on. 21 pounds.
2 months.
A month.
The month.
That's that's not even enough to eat, let alone send money home for his family's education. My God, that context makes his desperation just terrifyingly real.
It really does. It just underscores the disillusionment. He couldn't even repay the debt, let alone deliver on this big achievement he'd promised them. So he left Dubai. He made his way to Bahrain, where his oldest brother was working.
And that's where he came up with the plan.
That's where he saw no other way out. He formed this fatal plan to reach Britain by the most desperate means imaginable.
The pressure he must have felt. And when the news of his death finally got back to his family, what was the reaction?
It was immediate and just heartbreaking. His mother, Shahiyazat, she collapsed, had a minor heart attack when she heard.
Oh, no.
And there was this agonizing conflict within the family, you know. His brother said Muhammad always wanted to take risks. He was impatient, but his father is always telling him, wait, be patient. That gap between his bravery and his impatience, it proved lethal.
And the fact that he was identified at all is, well, it's a huge part of this story.
Yeah.
But it was also largely down to luck, wasn't it? It shows how easily these cases can just go cold.
Absolutely. The key was his brother, Gulbahar, in Bahrain. Muhammad had vanished, and his brother was searching everywhere. Then a news report comes out of London about this man falling from a plane.
And he saw it.
He saw it, and he said he just knew. It was this overwhelming certainty. So he provided a photograph, and that, combined with some numbers they found in Muhammad's pocket, allowed DCI Hill's team to confirm the identity.
That one news report, seen thousands of miles away by a family member who refused to give up, that's incredibly rare in the wider context of this, isn't it?
It is, and it really highlights the huge systemic challenges. I mean, why is identifying unidentified migrant bodies so difficult for authorities?
What are the main roadblocks?
Well, they're manifold. First, the bodies are, by definition, displaced. They're not where they should be. Second, they often have no documentation or it's fake, so a simple database check is useless. But the biggest thing,
What's that?
a huge number of migrant families just can't or won't report their loved ones missing.
Out of fear. Fear of the authorities.
Yes, often it's fear or necessity. If your family has an uncertain immigration status, reporting a missing person might alert the police to your own situation. You might fear deportation, so you live with the uncertainty.
So the entire burden of identification then falls on the police and coroners in the country where the body is found.
It absolutely does, and that's where the systems really fail. Identifying overseas citizens is incredibly difficult because international bodies, police, coroners, they all have different ways of recording things. The reporting is completely inconsistent across borders.
Can you give us an example of how that actually plays out?
Sure. A huge problem is just basic naming conventions. On death certificates and police logs, you'll see vague terms like unknown male or male 1830 or, John Doe.
So it's not standardized at all.
Not at all. And when that vague information goes into a national database, you can't cross-match it internationally. There's no consistent protocol for documenting scars, clothing, DNA. It's a mess.
So a family could report a missing son in Pakistan, and the UK could record a body as unknown male, and those two files might never, ever connect.
Exactly. The systems are siloed. The language is ambiguous. Muhammad's case only worked because of DCI, who kept pushing, and a brother who made a connection outside of any official channel.
Are there other cases that show this?
Oh, definitely. Think of a man named Matada, another wheelbase stowaway. He was buried in an unmarked grave in a London cemetery. Stayed there for years until sustained diplomatic efforts finally figured out who he was. They had to exhume his body and fly him home to Mozambique.
Years later.
Years. And then there's the case of Dennis Walsh Jr. His partial remains were found, and he remained unidentified for 18 years. 18. Until a DNA breakthrough finally connected the dots. It just shows you identification requires either incredible luck or decades of perseverance.
But Muhammad's story did eventually find a resolution. And it's one that shows his sacrifice wasn't entirely in vain, as tragic as it was.
Right. His death, it was devastating, but it didn't stop the family's drive. In the years after 2001, his other siblings found legitimate ways to go abroad. They found work, they sent money home, and they completely changed the family's economic situation.
And there's a wider statistic that backs this up, right? This isn't just one family's story.
It's not. The World Bank reported that Pakistan's poverty rate fell by 17% between 2001 and 2008. And a huge driver of that was migrant remittances being sent home. So Muhammad's ambition, while it led to his death, was actually validated by the legitimate success of his siblings.
Which brings us to this extraordinary conclusion 20 years later. The story wasn't over.
Not even close. In 2021, Muhammad's younger brother, Khalil Ullah, he got a legitimate British visa. He came to the UK to do a master's degree at Portsmouth University.
And as a tribute to his brother, he insisted on flying into Heathrow.
He did. Then he reached out, arranged a meeting with the journalist who first covered the story, and, critically, with the now-retired DCI Sue Hill.
Who had retired years earlier. And the coincidence around their first contact is just... it's incredible.
It really is. Hill was in Australia at the time, and she emailed back right away, saying, "Very spooky you've contacted me. I remember it well."
And when they finally spoke.
She told him that just a day or two before his email arrived, Muhammad had been weighing heavily on her mind.
After all that time.
After all that time, she told Khalil, "This young lad keeps coming into my head who fell from a plane." She'd been thinking about him, wondering how his family was doing. It just shows the impact these cases have on the people who work them.
I can't imagine.
And Hill gave Khalil details only she could know. She confirmed the dignity and respect his brother was treated with. She remembered being, in her words, a pain in the bum to British Airways, making sure they repatriated Muhammad's body properly.
Which they did.
They did, and Khalil confirmed it. He told her the small patch of land where Muhammad is buried in their village is now a peach orchard.
A peach orchard. A symbol of growth from tragedy.
Exactly, and their conversation ended with this really emotional exchange. Hill said to Khalil, "He got home safe," and Khalil just responded, "He's safe. We feel he is safe now."
Wow. So what does this all mean at the end of the day?
I think Muhammad Ayaz's story is this powerful illustration of what dedication can achieve. Both from his family and from a focused detective, they overcame enormous odds, and his successful identification just throws the larger bureaucratic failure into such sharp relief.
The inability to name or track these unidentified bodies.
Yes. The use of terms like John Doe or unknown male, it continues to block any chance for global collaboration and leaves hundreds of other families just waiting for answers.
And that bureaucratic challenge really is the thought we want to leave you with. The determination of police to identify a single unknown man falling from the sky led to this decades-long relationship and a hard-won moment of peace for a family thousands of miles away. If that's the level of dedication it takes for one successful identification, how many nameless histories are out there right now just waiting for a new piece of technology, a policy change, or maybe just a single dedicated detective to finally reveal their own long-delayed ending?